Rebecca here with Fairy Tales in Florida, and I am going to share with you guys some tips for taking your kids to the Disney parks. Now, we have done both Disneyland and Disney World. We did Disneyland, pretty much only Disneyland when our kids were newborn, starting at like 3 weeks. It was our youngest, to about a year ago, or right before COVID. We were at the parks at Disneyland the week that it closed down, to Disney World now. And we want to share with you guys some of the tips that we have learned taking our kids to Disney, and especially as they've grown up, kind of how things have like transitioned, but at the same time, things that actually will work now, even though our kids are older, things that we have learned throughout time. So first thing is to bring a stroller. Now, I understand on a normal day-to-day basis, your kids might be way too big, way too old for a stroller, but we're talking lots and lots of walking. On average, when we go just for a couple hours in the evening, we will hit anywhere from 3.5 to 6 miles of walking. Now, that's a lot for little kids, so having a stroller is such a good thing, because otherwise you aren't going to end up carrying your kids, or they're going to be miserable and you're going to be miserable, especially when it's hot. You do not want them hanging on you. So having a stroller is, I think, one of the best things you can do. Now, not only does it save on the kids' feet and walking and all of that, but it's also really great when these crowds start happening. Your kids are safely inside a stroller. They're not getting bumped and knocked over. You're not having to carry them. Again, you kind of have that safe zone for them. So that's another great thing about having a stroller. The other thing is you're able to pack extra clothes, you're able to pack extra snacks, blankets, things like that, and you have basically like your little locker there. Of course, everything you leave at your stroller could possibly be stolen, so make sure it's nothing valuable. I always carried a small backpack with me that had water, small snacks, like wallet with all my important information on it. And then in the big stroller, we had things that we grabbed at the dollar store, whether it was some cotton candy so we weren't spending money there, whether it was glow sticks, rain ponchos, things like that. And I purposefully bought cheaper things like, at Walmart when they have those cheap blankets or things like that, that I wouldn't really be heartbroken if they got stolen, because whatever, like I said, you leave in your stroller could possibly be stolen. So keep that in mind when you're leaving stuff in your stroller, but it's also such a great thing to have there. So I think bringing a stroller is important, even though my kids, I think were probably like 11. I think my daughter was like around 11, and my son was around 11. Like we went from a double stroller to a single stroller, and we found that my daughter, even after that, was like wanting to hop in when we were heading back to the hotels at night because she was tired. But having a double stroller, like I said, even if they're older, it's just we had numerous situations where crowds got crazy, and we were so thankful that even though our kids were old enough and totally could have walked it on their own, that we had a stroller, because it really just protected them in that little like bubble basically. So I think a stroller is super important. There's so many companies that actually rent on site at Disney World and at Disneyland, and they will deliver them right to your hotel. So if you don't necessarily want to do the Disney strollers because you have to leave those at the park and you're stuck carrying your kids back, then those can be great ones to take. We loved our baby jogger. We had the baby jogger double side by side. It was burly, it was tough, it was like incredible. It held the bigger kids, and it was just an awesome one, but it still folded down really small and was great for traveling with. So definitely check that out. There's so many different videos on people recommending strollers, and because there's constantly new ones coming out, I would definitely check that out. But I highly encourage bringing a stroller or renting a stroller from one of these companies that lets you have it for the whole time versus grabbing one at the parks. So that's just kind of my tip. But a stroller, if you have to get it at the park, then get it. But keep in mind, again, you can't take that to downtown Disney. So if you plan on doing, Disney Springs or downtown Disney or something like that, you will run into that problem. But stroller is my number one tip for having kids. Number 2 is meal planning and mobile ordering. So there's a couple things in here that I'm going to talk about. And that is, for one, you kind of want to have an idea if there's something that you guys want to eat, or somewhere you guys want to eat, or some food you want to try. Especially at Disney World, you have a lot of great food options. At Disneyland, you have like the Blue Bayou. If there's something special you want to try or someplace you want to eat, make sure you plan that ahead, because you do have to usually have dining reservations for those locations. Now, that being said, I personally am not a big planner of sit down meals because they take so much time to do. Unless you are doing maybe a character meet and greet or it's an experience that you guys want to have, I personally feel like most dining reservations take way longer than you probably want to be sitting and wasting your time. Now, if you're somebody who food is important to you, then by all means, that's a great thing to do. But maybe save it for when your kids are older and they can sit longer and are okay with that. I don't know. I think when you have a lot of little kids or you have younger kids, trying to do a dining reservation, unless, like I said, you're doing a character one where you're meeting characters, I think is not the best thing. But I'm going to talk a little bit about dining reservations. Actually, I'll just share it right here. If one of my other tips is having a rest day, I would say if you're going to do a character breakfast and you're staying on property, do it on your rest day. So you get up in the morning, you do a character breakfast, and you have the rest of the day to rest. But we'll talk more about rest days later. All right, so the other thing is mobile ordering. Mobile ordering has become such an incredible thing. You are able to order ahead of time and have your food ready for you. So what we love to do is a couple of our favorite places at Disney World to eat is Liberty Square. They have a really great spicy chicken sandwich. Casey's Corner at Magic Kingdom has really good food. I think pretty much those are the only ones that we really mobile order ahead, because Animal Kingdom, I can't think of the name of the place, but that one has a good one too. Their mac and cheese there is really good. But I think most of the other places, like at Epcot, you can pretty much walk in and order at Creations and all of those, or at Connections. Hollywood Studios, there's really not one that we order ahead. I guess you can for ABC Commissary and like backlots and stuff like that. So that's a good one to do ahead. But generally speaking, like, it's so nice to know ahead of time. And this is the other thing. I've asked the kids, are you guys hungry? And they're like, no, we're not hungry. But I know in about an hour, they're going to be hungry. And if we're talking about any time around like fireworks, or you're looking at dining at one of those areas or grabbing your food from one of those areas where the fireworks are happening, or Fantasmic or something like that, where there's an event happening, you definitely want to plan ahead, because it will take quite a bit longer to get your order if those events are happening at the same time that you're planning on picking up your order. Plus the crowds are pretty crazy. So keep that in mind if you're mobile ordering. But generally speaking, we're able to mobile order and have it ready. So like, let's say you can choose your time slot, but normally I'm like now till whenever. And I know I'm like, we're going to go on this ride. It's going to take us about half hour. I can choose that when we come off the ride, that location is nearby. Let's grab our food, because I know the time we do all of that, the kids will be hungry. And then if we have to wait an additional hour, then they've gone from hungry to hangry, and we want to avoid that as much as we can. So plan ahead for that. Make sure that if there are specific places you want to eat, you do that. Or if there's specific treats you want to get, that you know where to get those treats before you go. And then you can plan it in your day. So the next one is talking about rope drop or extended hours. So depending on where you're at, some parks are having the extended hours in the evening, and other parks aren't. So it just depends. You do need to usually be staying on site at a deluxe resort in order to get those extended hours in the evening. If you're somebody who's more of a night owl, that will definitely be a plus for you, having those extended hours in the evening. Now, they do have morning extended hours on certain locations, and then they have rope dropping, which means that you get there before park opens and you're standing at a rope literally inside the park that will open up to, let's say, Adventureland or Tomorrowland or, Rock and Roller Coaster and Hollywood Boulevard. So you have these, or, Garden or Galaxy's Edge. So you have these ropes that block off these lands that will drop when the park opens. So you're already in the park at that rope, and you can run right to Rise, or you can go to Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster, and you can hit some of those e-ticket rides, but without having to do Genie Plus or Lightning Lane. So it's a good way to do that if that's something that you really enjoy doing. If you have older kids, or if there's rides that you really want to get and you don't want to put the money into Lightning Lane or Genie Plus, rope drop can be a great thing. For us personally, we're not morning people. So for us, we love to do the extended hours, stay at a deluxe hotel and do those extended hours, where you have the option of staying later at the park and being able to hit those rides with less crowds. Now, we've been able to walk right on Space Mountain or wait 10-15 minutes when we do those extended hours. So in our opinion, it's very much worth it to spend that extra to stay at a deluxe resort, because you get these extra bonuses. And it makes it so much more worth it. We're not spending money on Lightning Lane. And if you think about it, you're like, oh, but it's only $15. Well, times however many people are in your party, that might be that difference between a moderate and a deluxe resort. And there's so many other benefits that come from a deluxe resort. But again, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, so rope dropping is an option and extended hours. You want to look ahead. Disney will post the extended hours that are available at different hotels and different parks, and you can add and make sure you make reservations at those parks. Like right now, Wednesday night is an extended hour for Magic Kingdom. Like Monday night is an extended hour for Epcot or whatever it may be. And then you want to make sure you have park reservations for those resorts on those days. And while we're talking about that, I'm going to hop real quick to park hoppers. Personally, for us, I feel Disneyland, you need a park hopper. Those parks are so close to each other, you can hop back and forth. You probably are going to spend a whole day at Disneyland, and you can probably spend a whole day at California Adventure. But on your second and third day, you're probably going to want to go hop back and forth, morning here, afternoon here, whatever it is. In our personal opinion, that's what we always found ourselves doing. Like we love World of Color, so we love being at California Adventure in the evening. Cars Land looks so cool in the evening, so going over there is really cool. Galaxy's Edge looks really cool in the evening, so maybe if you started your morning over at California Adventure and you rope dropped and went to the Incredicoaster, and then you want to start, finish the evening at, in Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. I think 100% Disneyland is a park hopper like must have. Now, on the other hand, for Disney World, I don't think you really need a park hopper. And the reason I say this is because it takes so much longer to go from one park to another park at Disney World. Now, that being said, if you do a park hopper, there are some areas where this might work. If you're doing Magic Kingdom and Epcot and you can take the monorail back and forth, that is a great one to hop back and forth, because Epcot closes earlier and Magic Kingdom stays open later, especially if you have extended hours at Magic Kingdom. That might be a great option. It's also Epcot's very close to Hollywood Studios, so that might be a great option for hopping back and forth. But generally speaking, like you wouldn't hop from Hollywood Studios to Magic Kingdom in the same day, and you wouldn't hop from Magic Kingdom, Epcot, or Hollywood Studios to Animal Kingdom because it's so far away. Especially if you're taking Disney transportation, because that takes so long to get from point A to point B. So that's just kind of that. I'm also going to talk real quick about the distance to the parks, your hotel being a certain distance to the parks. I personally think walking distance or a short ride is the best. We have the beautiful Skyliner here, which helps a lot, but there are mornings when that doesn't work or there's some kind of hiccup or whatever it may be. So you can't always guarantee that. But that can be said about any of the transportations. However, having it to where it's a quick ride from one to the other is pretty quick. Now, we actually Google mapped the other day from Epcot International Gateway, which is not by the Spaceship Earth, but the back one by Ratatouille, from there to Hollywood Studios, how long it would take. We Googled walking versus Skyliner. Walking, it said it took 23 minutes, and the Skyliner, it said it took 21 minutes. So not a huge... No, I'm sorry, 21 minutes for the Skyliner, 27 minutes for walking. So you got to figure it's going to take about a half hour to walk from one to the other, or 21 minutes, give or take, how long the line would be at the transfer spot to do the Skyliner. So it's very close, but at the same time, you're looking at a half hour. So you're going to waste an hour if you're going back and forth or back and forth. Now, that being said, if you parked at Epcot, you end your night at Hollywood Studios, you can't get back through because you would have to enter into Epcot to get to the parking on the other side. So that's where you really have to kind of plan out how you're going to do these things and where you're going to park or what kind of transportation you have. If you're staying on site, it's not a big deal. Take a bus to Magic Kingdom or to Epcot in the morning, do your day, head out the International Gateway, finish your night at Hollywood Studios, take a bus back to your hotel. That would be a great way to do it. However, that's not always, it doesn't always work that way. The other thing that I would recommend is look at what hotels are within walking distance to the parks you think you will be at the most. If you are somebody who loves Animal Kingdom and you think you're going to be spending a lot of time at Animal Kingdom, then staying at the Animal Kingdom Lodge might be a logical spot because it's the closest one to that, right? However, if you know you're going to be at Magic Kingdom majority of the time, or Epcot or Hollywood Studios majority of the time, you probably don't want to stay at Magic or Animal Kingdom because it's quite a ways away from that, and you're looking at wasting anywhere half hour, 45 minutes to an hour in transportation every day getting to and from the parks. So I personally think you need to look at where you're probably going to spend the most days and try to find a park or a hotel within that. So if you know that you're somebody who's going to be spending the majority of the time at Magic Kingdom because that's one of your favorite parks, then look at the hotels near there. You got the Contemporary, you've got Grand Floridian, you got Polynesian, you've got Copper Creek. All of those have pretty quick, direct transportation to Magic Kingdom. Okay, so let's say you would prefer Epcot or Hollywood Studios. You've got the boardwalk, you've got the beach clubs, you got Swan and Dolphin. So you have resorts that are close, and those three resorts in particular are literally right between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So if you know those are your two favorite parks, trying to get into one of those would be a great option. So definitely look at what parks you'll be spending the most time and where you want to stay. Now at Disneyland, you don't have as many options for hotels, so it's a lot harder sometimes to stay on property. However, there are a lot of good neighbor hotels. And again, I recommend finding one that is within walking distance because your transportation can take a while to get there or it can get filled up very quickly. We have stayed at the Hyatt House. That's a little bit of a walk, but it's still within walking distance. The Candy Cane Inn is a really small hotel that has a shuttle actually that runs quite often and usually is not too crowded. So worst case scenario, if you don't want to walk, you can take the shuttle, but it's also very close within walking distance. And then there are quite a few ones across the way that you can take that are literally right across the street from the entrance. So that's something to keep in mind if you're staying at Disneyland. And the reason number 2 for having a hotel that is close by is scheduling in rest time. Especially if you're somebody who's going to be rope dropping and you have small kids, you really want to schedule in rest time for these kids to be able to go back to the hotel and rest. Whether they go swimming or whether they just hang out in the cool room for a little bit without all the stimulation and everything, it's a great thing to do. It's even wonderful for mom and dad to have just a moment of quiet and peace. Like, it's just nice. So I know you may not necessarily take a nap, but even just being in the air conditioning, maybe changing out some clothes, maybe, you know, having an opportunity to just relax is so important. So that's, I think, another really important one is making sure that your lodging is going to be close to the parks. I think is super important. We talked about park hoppers. We talked about rest time, rope dropping. Ride expectations is another one. Make sure that you look ahead. Disney will post what rides are being refurbished. If they're being refurbished, that usually means they're going to be down for a while. They usually have an estimated return time that they'll be back up and running. It's not always guaranteed, but they usually have an estimated return time. But if there's a certain ride that you know you want to go on, let's say Pirates or something, and it's being refurbished, you want to make sure that you know that ahead of time so you're not disappointed. And especially if you have kids that have been looking forward to a certain ride, you want to make sure that they know this ahead of time so that they don't show up and find out that ride's closed and then, you know, you have kids throwing temper tantrums. So that's another one. Also, making sure you measure your kids ahead of time so you know what rides they can go on. This is super important. All of the Disney apps show the height requirement for rides. So you can know ahead of time if your kid can go on Indiana Jones. Because let's say they love Indiana Jones and they want to go on Indiana Jones. You're like, you get to go on Indiana Jones. And then they get up there and they don't make the height requirement and they're told no and they're upset and they're crying. And it just leads to trauma that didn't need to have to happen. So make sure you've measured your kids, you know how tall they are and what rides they can go on. And make sure you give a little bit of a flex room. Like if they're pushing it, it still might be a maybe because depending on who's measuring and what shoes they are, and if your kid wants to like stand up straight or not, can change that a little bit. So be prepared for that by knowing the height of your kids and making sure that you know what rides are actually up and running at the time. The other one is to kind of have a plan. And I say a plan real loosely because I am one of these people that I think if you plan too much for Disney or like the Disney parks, you're going to find yourself disappointed. So what I mean by have a plan is ask everybody, is there a specific ride you want to go on? You know, maybe your kids don't know about a ride, but you can just like kind of know they are really into Star Wars. They're really into Winnie the Pooh. They're really into whatever it may be. You know, Peter Pan is their favorite character, whatever it is. You can know that there will be a ride. You can research that, see if they make that height requirement, and then plan to go on those rides. Now, if you have this loose plan of what rides you want to go on, and again, what dining places you want to go, you can kind of look at the maps ahead of time online and say, okay, so I have my husband who wants to go on Big Thunder, and then I have my child who wants to go on, Autotopia or, Tomorrowland Speedway, whichever park you're at. And those are opposite sides of the park. Well, we're not going to go here to here and then, oh, I want to hit Haunted Mansion. You can look ahead of time and kind of get an idea on what you want to do. You know that Big Thunder is going to be a rope drop ride. So you head out and do that, right? And then Haunted Mansion would be on its way to go to Little Mermaid because your daughter loves Little Mermaid. So you can kind of get an idea on how you're going to navigate the park versus running back and forth chaotically. And then you have an idea also of where you're going. And that really makes a big difference. Having that app on your phone is so awesome because it tells you wait times, heights, it tells you so much, lets you mobile order, gives you your map. It's a must have is having that downloaded on your phone. So I know I don't have that actually written down as one of my tips, but that is definitely a must have, is to have the Disney apps downloaded on your phone. Yeah, so the other one, okay, is rider swap or rider switch. So if you have small kids, there's a thing called rider swap or rider switch. Now what that means is one person goes in the line and waits, right, with their kids. They go on the ride, and then let's say mom's waiting outside with the kid that was too small, and then dad comes back, they get their rider swap, they tell the cast member, I need to get a rider swap, my wife is going to come and ride now, and she gets to ride. Now if you have, let's say, like when it was the four of us, my husband, my daughter, my son, and I. My daughter could go on the rides, my son couldn't. So I would go on the ride with her, or my husband would go on the ride with her and then come back, and I would stay off with my son, and then my husband would stay off with my son, and I would go with my daughter. So she got a ride twice, which was pretty cool for her, and then we each got a ride. So that's something that Disney offers. It's a really nice way of doing that, and it's a great way so that way you don't have to wait in line again. You literally go through the lightning lane or sometimes around the back, depending on the ride. A cast member will direct you. You just say, hey, we're doing the rider swap. They have different things that they do. Sometimes they scan, sometimes they give you a ticket, kind of depends on what's going on, but you just let the cast member know and then you go back through it with that person. So that's a really great thing to have. The other thing that remember too is you can split up. Like if I know I want to do Splash Mountain and Big Thunder and all of these rides that maybe are bigger rides, but they're kind of grouped together and there's not really any small rides for like younger kids right in that area, it's okay to split up and say, hey, we're going to go hit, Splash Mountain and Big Thunder, and we're going to do those rides. It's going to take a little bit of time. Why don't you take them to the Tiki Room and Pirates or Jungle Cruise and hit some of those smaller rides and split up? It's okay to do that for many reasons. Like, obviously it's just okay, but it also gives you an opportunity to spend time with your kids, usually on a one-on-one basis or a little more of like a special time that it's just you and the kids. So I think it's a great opportunity. And if you look at it as more as like, hey, mommy and I are going to go spend special time together. We'll swap later, and tomorrow I'll do special time with you. And you can switch back and forth and make it sound like an amazing thing. Not like, oh no, we got to split up. Oh, no. You can make it into like a nice time and make some really amazing memories when it's just you and that one child. So I think it's a great thing to do, even if your kids maybe don't need to split up, just to kind of give you that time. There's plenty of time that you have together, but also having some time to do that is good too. The other thing is to actually find a quiet spot or a chill spot. Sometimes maybe going back to your hotel is not in the cards. Maybe time-wise, dinner reservations, whatever, it's too far away, is not in the cards. So there's many places that you can find, and I've actually talked about this a lot on my Instagram channel because my daughter has a service dog, that we use these chill spots not just for us, but especially for her service animal in order to kind of have a spot to chill and relax. There are spots everywhere, and even especially like at Disney World, if you're not staying at one of the resorts, you can still go to those resorts. Most of them have a coffee shop or a place to eat or a place to kind of sit and relax, even if it's just in the lobby on one of their chairs, that you can kind of go and relax and chill. Some of them also have like areas where the kids can run around and play and have games. They have like kind of like courtyards almost. Boardwalk does, the Riviera does. Those are all available on the Skyline, and you can hop over there and your kids can run. They have big checkers, they have beanbag talks, Connect Four, excuse me. And the kids can kind of just go and relax, and you can find a quiet spot to kind of sit and chill. So I definitely recommend that. Most parks have a spot like a playground or something that the kids can play at, and that sometimes can be good too because the kids just get a run around. They've been stuck in lines or stuck in the stroller, and they just need to kind of get out and let some of that kid energy out. And so it's a great time to do that. Grab yourself a coffee or whatever you want and just relax and let the kids run around and chill, especially if you can't make it back to the resort for rest time. Let's see. The next one is, I don't know how many times this has happened if you're a parent that you get in line, you're almost to the front, and your kid's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And you're just like, seriously, we're about to get on a ride. So one of the things that we do, because you constantly need to be drinking and hydrating because you're at usually a hot location, both Florida and California can be quite hot during the summer. I always just recommend hitting up bathrooms whenever you see them. I mean, obviously, like it may not seem like you're like, we just went on a ride, we don't need to go. But if you were in line for 45 minutes or a half hour and that ride was 10 minutes long, and it's like, that's almost an hour in between, right? And then if you go to another ride, you've been drinking a lot of water, by the time you get off that ride, that's going to be 2 hours. Now, your kids, and I know for myself, like, I like to just go in between rides when I see it and it's convenient versus having to rush and find something and making it more stressful. So generally speaking, when we're going from point A to point B, we know there's a bathroom. Let's just hop in real quick and let's try to go to the bathroom and just get it done. So we're not finding ourselves in that, oh shoot, I have to go to the bathroom when we're about to get on the ride, or when you're just about to sit down and eat, or whatever it may be. Just use them when you see them, and it makes it a lot easier. And if you're just doing it along the way, it's not a big deal. It's super quick. You're not rushing somewhere, running somewhere in between, and you're not rushing at the last minute. So I definitely recommend just hitting up those bathrooms in between rides when you see them. The other one is there's a baby care center at most of these Disney parks. Okay, so Disneyland, Disney World, they have what are called baby care centers. And what you can do is you can go in there. They have quiet rooms where you can nurse. They have quiet, like, changing tables. They have little toddler bathrooms, toilets. Like, if your kid, maybe the big bathroom is too much going on, maybe they're having a hard time going, whatever, you can bring them to these baby care centers. They also have formula, diapers, all this kind of stuff that you might have forgot at these baby care centers, and you can grab those things for your babies. So those things are like a godsend, especially when you have like newborn babies or tiny babies, and maybe you don't want to use the public bathrooms to be changing them, or there's like a medical issue or whatever it is. You can take them into these baby care centers, and you have a little quiet place to nurse, to calm down, to maybe put them down, to whatever it is. It's just a nice quiet environment, and you're only allowed in there with your baby, so it's not like other people are coming in and out and stuff. So it's really nice. The other thing is to have ID tags on your kids. I know nowadays they make watches and different devices that you can have your kids wear to track where your kids are, which is really great. But we have seen more often than not kids that are 6, 7 years old that have been lost or separated from their parents that are crying so hard that they can't even say what their parents' phone number is or their name or whatever. So if you go to Disney and you happen to see they have ID tag spots, like as a souvenir, we put our kids' names along with our phone number there on each of their tags. They each wore one of those, and we would have it put it on. You could put it on a bracelet. You could put it on like a necklace. We always had it on it's like a dog chain. We got them made before we left, so we actually had them. And then when we were there, we saw they had Disney ones, and so we got some Disney ones made there that had, just like I said, our kids' names and our phone numbers. So we said, if you ever get separated, you just show this to one of the cast members and just like, call my mom. It's like they will know that's your phone number. We will know that you have that on there, because like I said, so often these kids are so upset or traumatized that they have a hard time speaking, and between tier 4, 3, like it's hard to understand what they're saying. And so it makes it so much easier. So worst case scenario, if you ever do lose your kid, they have that and they can do that. Thank God it's never happened to us, but we have seen many other kids get lost, and it happens so quick in those crowds. And you just look away for a second and a big group of people come through and your kid's on the other side and he starts following the wrong person. We've helped kids that have gotten separated find cast members, find their families. It happens so often, and it's kind of crazy to think, but having that on there is just a little extra something that they can have to show. But again, like I said, nowadays you also have those trackers that, they can track if you do lose your kid. But I think it's a great thing to have. It's just kind of a way to, reassure that your kids can find their way back to you should something happen. So And then the last thing I want to say is be prepared for the unexpected. Like I said, you make a loose plan, but things are going to happen. Everybody is coming to Disney. Everybody is paying the same price to come. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. It costs the same for everybody to go to Disney. And that's a lot of money. And so a lot of people have these really high expectations that they're going to get for all this money, that they should be treated a certain way or whatever it is. Remember, everybody there is in the same boat as you are, okay? Some people might have saved longer, so they're able to afford the lightning lane. Some people, that might not be in their budget. I get that. There are, things like that. But at the same time, everybody wants to get on that ride. Everybody wants to see that show. Everybody wants to do the same thing. And everybody has paid the same price to come in there. So be respectful of that. Realize that people are going to be short-tempered because they have frustrated at the heat, the weather, the kids, the money they've spent, whatever it is, and have patience with other guests and there. Also with our cast members. The cast members are so incredible, and they work really hard to show you guys the best, most magical time out there. But they're human too, and they have bad days. We have more, because we are such regulars. We know when the new, here at Disney World, you have college program kids that come through. We can always tell when the new college program kids have come through. Half the time we're training them because they don't know. But it's one of those things where you need to have that patience and understand that they're doing the best that they can. They're doing what they can. And sometimes that's all they can do. And sometimes other guest members are going to maybe not respect the way or handle things the way that you would, but let's just all try to be civil. Let's all try to remember that we're here to have a good time. It is supposed to be a good time. It's supposed to be a magical time, and it is a time and a place for kids. So let's try to respect one another and realize that sometimes all of our expectations may not happen, but the fact that you are at this park and able to be there is an incredible blessing in itself, and just to enjoy that. So that's my tips for Disney traveling or going to Disneyland and Disney World with kids. I hope these helped you out. I know, like I said, I'm not a mom of babies anymore, but these are all things that we have experienced throughout time, and it has made a huge difference in us being able to, enjoy our Disney trips. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will be sharing more videos on tips and tricks for Disney, some of our favorite places to eat, some of our favorite treats to eat, as well as more of these resort tours, because we love staying here. And like I said, staying on property, I think, is one of the best things you can do. It just really keeps you in that little Disney magical bubble, and we love doing it. So I will continue sharing about those. But yeah, please give me this video a big thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. This is a new channel. I've had a channel for a long time that deals with like healthy living and stuff. But this is a new channel here. So please subscribe and support this channel so we can grow and share this content with more people. We've been everywhere from Tokyo Disney to Disney World, Disneyland. We are excited to hit up some of these other parks as traveling becomes more open, and we've been annual pass holders since we were little, and so we love sharing all this Disney love with you guys. So be sure to subscribe, as there'll be a lot more content coming our way, and comment below and let me know if you have a Disney tip that you would like to share, or what was your favorite Disney tip that you learned here today. And again, that always helps our channel out, so we really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful, magical day. Bye for now.